resigned because I wanted a 100% salary increase.
Okay.
After only 3 months.
On your first job?
Not even graduated. They tell you I tarmacked looking for attachments. One day I just walked into an office and sat down.
Yes.
So I think I would take the chance.
You die with money.
Sio wizi wa mashamba.
Si watu wakusongeza beacon.
No. The surveyor is the first person to get to site. But they don't leave site after that. Because now after the... Yeah.
Refer to as ule jamaa mwenye anakuja kwa ofisi once in a while. Hello everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Pipeline Podcast. Hope you're enjoying the ones we've had so far, the episode that we had. If this is your first time, we'd highly recommend that you watch the other podcasts, get to know what we've discussed with previous guests, and catch up with where we are at so far. Karibuni sana to yet another podcast, and today we are privileged to have yet another of our engineers here at Synergetic Development Group. I'll let him introduce himself, tell us a little bit about who he is and what he does, and then we pick it from there. Engineer Mwai.
Yes, sir.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yes. So tell us something about, just introduce yourself and what you do. Yeah.
Right. So hi everybody. My name is Stephen Mwai. I'm a geospatial engineer by profession, working with a Synergetic Development Group. Yes.
Geospatial engineer. What exactly does geospatial... I don't know how to ask, what does a geospatial engineer do? Or what does geospatial engineering mean?
Well, same question, different ways. So let me answer what geospatial engineering is. So in basic terms, what we know geospatial engineers as is a surveyor. A geospatial engineer.
So just a surveyor with a fancy title.
Not really. So let me qualify my statement.
Yeah.
So what happened is the field of surveying advanced so much to the point that the term surveying was not sufficient to describe the industry. And so we took on the term geospatial engineering, and there is also another term called geomatics engineering. So geospatial engineering and geomatics engineering, they mean the same. So with advances in technology, the scope of surveying expanded so much that now we could no longer call it just surveying.
Okay.
So that is what geospatial engineering is, and it has different branches. So we have land surveying. So that is the classical surveying as people know it. When you tell somebody, watu wa mashamba, yes. So yes.
Kusongeza beacon.
No. Sio wezi wa mashamba.
Si watu wa kusongeza beacon.
No. So watu wa mashamba. So basically now land surveying is about boundaries, is about the administration, the registration of land, and the allocation of the same, whether government or private entities. So that is land surveying. Then there's another branch of geospatial engineering that is called engineering surveying. And that is very key at Synergetic Development Group because we are an engineering and construction company.
Yeah.
And so most of the surveys that we do are in the field of engineering survey, and that is surveying for engineering and construction purposes.
Okay.
Yes, we have other disciplines of the same like GIS, which we also do here at Synergetic. So GIS is short for Geographic Information Systems.
Okay.
Or Geoinformation Systems. So with GIS is like the IT of geospatial engineering or of surveying. That is where now we use software, we create software for various purposes. So GIS is like the IT of surveying. We have other fields like remote sensing. So remote sensing involves the capturing of data on the Earth surface remotely. Hence the word remote, remote sensing. So when you hear people using satellite technology to capture data on the Earth, drone technology, that is remote sensing, and it's another field of geospatial engineering. There are other fields like hydrographic survey, that is surveying in the in the waters,
In the waters.
whether
Yeah.
the oceans, rivers. We want to see how the seabed looks like, and that is something we also do here at Synergetic. Interestingly,
Oh, really?
yes,
All right.
because we have some projects that are offshore, and so we always have to survey the waters, and that is now a different branch of surveying.
Yeah.
Yes, we have others like geodesy that involves positioning. Like you've seen people go to space, and then they start understanding the shape of the Earth and the alignment of the Earth to other relative to other bodies.
That is also under
that
surveying.
is also under surveying. Yes. So because of all that scope that expanded with time, now we stopped calling it surveying, and we gave it the term geospatial engineering.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Well, information overload.
I know. It's a mouthful.
Now you know. Now, so let me ask, from a layman's perspective,
Yes.
at what point does a common person require a geospatial engineer? Is it when they're buying land, for example? As in, what services would you give to a common layman?
So, depending on how much an economy has grown, the services required in that economy are different. In Kenya, for instance, the one service that we have consumed from geospatial engineers is mostly land surveying. Yeah.
And what does that, maybe we could just brief us, I'm trying to understand, what does that land surveying entail?
Yes.
And what are the benefits? Okay. Why do I need a land surveyor? Siwezi tu anza kujenga. Why do I need to know the limits of my plot, etc.?
So when let's say you're buying a property, for instance, and the person who makes you very sure that what you're buying is indeed what is on the ground is the surveyor. Because the surveyor knows how to interpret maps. They also know the processes that are involved in the transfer, in the subdivision or amalgamation of land. So the surveyor is the person that knows the space on the ground. And they also know the process that are involved for you to acquire a certain space defined by a certain coordinates or measurements. So that's why you need a surveyor. Yes.
All right. And then also there's the other aspect of the other professionals also need your surveying drawings. Is it?
Yes. So
civil engineers. Maybe we could just speak on that as well.
Yes. So we are always working, especially at Synergetic, we're always working with civil engineers, mechanical engineers, architects, because each project happens on a location that is defined by boundaries. And so first we have to confine ourselves to our boundaries so that we are not going to a neighbor's farm, that we are not going to the road, or we are not building on a power we live or such. So that is why the surveyor is the first person that goes to ground when we are dealing with an engineering project. But beyond the boundaries, there is also the terrain and the features. And now when we are talking of a topographical survey, now a topographical survey covers not just the boundaries, but also all the features and the terrain within that space. Because now the terrain affects the design of the architect, of the civil engineer, the mechanical engineer, electrical engineer. Because now, if it is something like drainage, water has to flow in a certain direction. It has to be designed in relation and in respect to the terrain. So that is why a surveyor's work is very important for all the other disciplines.
So you're basically the first professional, if I may say, or engineer who visits site.
Yes, we are always the first engineer to go to site. And when we go to the site, we also pick the other things that the other engineers will require. For instance, the electrical engineer might want to know what is the position of a transformer on the site. Where is the power line?
To the site,
where are the access roads? Is there an existing drainage or sewer system available? So we map it, and then when we give it now to the engineers, they know how to design and align their features and everything that they want to put on the site, depending on what is existing.
Wow, wow, interesting. You know, most people just assume that a surveyor ni mtu alikuja kukwambia beacon ya shamba ni hapa hapa na hapa, ukienda beyond hapa ni barabara, beyond hapa ni shamba ya mtu mwingine. But it's interesting to learn that over and above, yes, that is part of what you do,
yes,
but over and above that, there is more.
Yes, there is more. Yeah. And it is not just before construction. Like we said, the surveyor is the first person to get to site. But they don't leave site after that. Because now after the architects, the engineer, the civil engineers, structural engineers, mechanical, electrical, after they have designed the project, then they come and give it back to us to help with the implementation.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because
I thought after mmetoka site ni hivyo.
No, we don't go. We are there from the beginning to the end.
To the very end.
Yes. And the reason we are there is because we have a civil engineer that is implementing on the ground. And they know that there's a building that is supposed to sit somewhere. Now that somewhere, the person that knows where it is the surveyor. Because the surveyor has equipment and methodologies of accurate and precise measurement. And so they are the one who know this column should go here, this drainage starts here, these electrical manholes will be here, this is how high we go, or how low we go. We advise how much we need to dig, how much we need to fill, and the volumes that are involved, and all that.
So basically what I hear you saying is every feature or aspect of the building or of the project has to be located somehow. You don't just ati mlango itakuwa hapa unapima 2 strides.
No.
Weka manhole hapa, eka pima 3 strides in this direction, measure 10 meters.
No.
It has to be, I don't know to say geo-referenced, or that's the wrong term.
Yes, that's the right term actually. I see you are up to date with these things.
I try.
Yes, so georeferencing basically is the term used to refer to positioning according to a certain coordinate system. So after we have done our topographic survey, we have designed, they give it back to us with georeference. So that everything that we are placing on the site is relative to a certain reference system. So even if another surveyor came, they know what system we are in, and they will place it the same place where any other surveyor would have. We have placed it. So it's not just about measurements by tape or I don't know by what, because there are also orientations about angles and yes. Wow.
Well, interesting. I think we need to end the interview there.
It's very interesting.
We've learned, and I think this is just a tip of the iceberg. We feel like we've learned quite a lot about surveying and just getting to get a new perspective about what is involved in surveying, over and above just, kuonyeshana where the boundaries of the plot are.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So what got you, how did you get to pursue a career in geospatial engineering? Where did it all begin?
Interesting question. For me, my decision to become a geospatial engineer was very impulsive. It was a spur of the moment. I had never imagined myself as a geospatial engineer. In fact, geography was my worst performed subject,
Really?
both in primary and and in high school.
In primary it was GHC.
And here I
I
am.
remember GHC. Right?
Yes. You remember measuring distances on the road with a string?
What I remember those questions from it used to be map work, and interestingly for us,
Question 1 to 7.
Question 1 to 7.
Yes.
And the teacher was teaching us GHC back then. Whenever results came, the number of questions that you got wrong was going to be the number of strokes of Bakora you'd get.
Yes.
Now, the day that, because he was a new teacher, the day he introduced that I had only gotten one correct answer.
Oh my God.
So I think that's one of the reasons I dropped geography in high school. But go on. You're telling us about how you got into that career.
Yeah, so geography was one of my worst performed subjects. I didn't like it. But here I am having a career that is very much related to geography.
What changed? Because I feel like something
changed along the way, definitely. So I was good in mathematics and the sciences. And so I knew I would become an engineer. which type of engineer. I really didn't care, but I knew I would pursue something in the line of engineering. And so I was enrolled for mechanical engineering. And that is what I started doing in college.
Wow.
And I did it for about 2 weeks. And then there was this call for interfaculty transfers. So now as students are told, if you feel like you want to change your course, you have this opportunity. And there's a list of the courses that are available and the number of slots and the cutoff points. So out of curiosity, I went to the notice board and I looked at it and I was like, wait, I qualify for all engineering courses. Then I should just change it, just for fun.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started considering civil engineering, electrical engineering, aeronautical engineering.
You had qualified for aeronautical engineering?
Yes, I had qualified.
And you decided to do GIS? Okay, continue.
We will find out. Yes, so I called a friend, and I think now this is the influence of a friend that made me choose to go to geospatial engineering. The friend was in 5th year doing electrical engineering. So I called him because I knew now he's in the field already. He understands where maybe the opportunities are. And he told me aeronautical engineering that time was new. Actually, our year was the first time that there was a degree course in aeronautical engineering in the country. Yes.
Oh, wow.
In the country.
Okay.
Because we only have one university teaching aeronautical engineering, that is the Technical University. So it was the first year. So he told me, now you see, because this is a very new field, you don't go there, you don't want to risk, you never know. Exactly, yes. Don't be the guinea pig. Then he told me, between civil and electrical, I think I would choose civil. And he told me, in Kenya, most projects are based on civil works. So if you want to go into become a tenderpreneur, you might want to go that way. And I was like, okay. Then before he ended the call, he asked me, by the way, in your college, do you have geospatial engineering? And I was like, I think I've seen something like that on the list. And he's like, choose that. I'm like, why? Why should I choose that? And he says, he asked me a very funny question, like, do you love money? And I was like, well, yeah, of course I do. Like, choose that. Like, but what is it? He's like, you choose. So, and that is what I did. He was a good friend. I knew he knew what he was saying. So I selected geospatial engineering, and then I went home Googling what it is.
Something interesting I've just remembered. Back then when you were choosing courses, just like you've rightfully said, some of us weren't aware which engineering. We were not exposed to the different engineering. We're not even sure what they do. And whenever you would inquire about engineering courses, the first question would be, gani kona pesa?
Exactly.
The second one would be, gani ni ngumu, gani ni rahisi. You don't want the title engineer,
but you
also you don't want to
but you want to be an engineer.
Zenye utamaliza bila kurudia kupata number of supplementary along the way. Wow, interesting. So that's how you found yourself in GIS. Yes. And I hope the journey, because seeing you here right now, it means that I hope you've enjoyed the journey. And how has it been? Yeah,
so that's how I found myself here. So if I didn't change, we would be with you. In mechanical engineering.
Become mechanical engineer. I used to be told that mechanical is the toughest engineering.
Yeah, so we were told.
Yeah, and I still found myself there. But anyway, so you have been a mechanical engineer now.
Yeah, I would have been, but now I'm a geospatial engineer, and I have loved the journey so far. I can't regret. Not to say mechanical engineering is.
I'll have my day in court.
Yes, but I think it is a field, because of now all the new things that were happening in the geospatial engineering industry. Actually, in our year, that was also one of the first years when now we stopped calling it surveying to geospatial engineering. And so I enjoyed the new technologies, new aspects of the same. And even in my practice over the years, I have really enjoyed just new technologies, new methodologies, every day new discovery.
Interesting. And you're going to touch on that a little later.
Yes.
during the podcast, where basically we'll get to learn what are some of the emerging issues, new trends, where do you see the industry going in the next couple of years, yeah?
Right.
So what does your typical day look like as a geospatial engineer?
Data collection. It's simple. in the day of a geospatial engineer, it's data collection, data management and analysis, and then presentation, all what we call visualization. Basically, we go out and we collect data. It could be data collection in the field if you're doing maybe surveying. Sometimes it could be in the office if you're doing things like GIS, because we have all these databases that you get data from online. Then we go to data management and analysis. This is just the manipulation of data, making it now appear to be the product that you want in the end. And then now we have the presentation. The presentation is in form of either you're presenting a layout, a map, a drawing, and such kind. Yes. So that's a day in
Day.
yes.
Yeah.
Could not be one day.
Yeah.
I could be in the field collecting data for a week, then the other week
You're actually in the office.
I'm in the office, yes.
It's very interesting because I think I've mentioned this to you before. Most guys, how they refer to people, don't know your name.
Yeah.
They refer to you as ule jamaa mwenye anakuja kwa ofisi once in a while.
I know. Yeah.
You know, there's even times they're having small talks with colleagues that are like, oh, Mwai bado nakuanga kampuni ama.
Some people will tend to forget that if you even work in the same company.
So basically what that's alluding to is that you spend most of your time, because yours is, I don't know how to say, a field-based.
It is a field-based career.
You spend most of your time qua ground.
Yes, especially if you're doing land surveying or engineering surveying, you will find yourself most of the time in the field, because you're either now collecting data for the engineers to design or you're now helping them implement the project on site. Yes, but if you find yourself in the areas of GIS and remote sensing, you'll have some field days, but you might find that maybe most of the times you're dealing with data in the office. But if you're doing surveying, field will be your thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Loving the interview so far. Learning quite a lot. I wouldn't say I wish I did GIS. Like I mentioned, I have my day where I also get to defend mechanical engineers.
You still have a chance. You can still switch.
This age, I know it's something I'd want to consider. So you've taken us through your journey, how you went, what you're called to do, which was mechanical. You've talked, this friend of yours asked you to change, or rather advised you to change, and you considered this. You finished, you've graduated.
Yes.
Job opportunities. Tell us about your first job. How was it? How difficult was it to get a job? Did you tarmac? Ulikuwa unaitisha leave kwenda graduation? We've had such people.
Yeah, I know. You're already working, yeah? Well, I would say I was lucky with my first job. Not at first, but then I got lucky. This is what happened. I got my first job even before I graduated. Yes, so maybe I'm in that category of the ones you're saying are seeking leave.
I speak on behalf of all engineers or graduates, and I say we hate you people.
But unfortunately, by the time graduation came, I was not working.
Oh, really?
This is what happened. So our final attachment came after we have completed everything, the schoolwork and also the project. So it was the last thing you do before you graduate. Let me tell you, I tarmacked looking for attachment. I tarmacked for 2 months. So the attachment is supposed to take 2 months, 3 months, sorry. By the end of the second month, I had not found attachment. And so this is what I did, because it was an academic requirement. One day I just walked into an office and sat down.
No.
I did that. And the receptionist asked me, so you're here to see? I'm like, I've come for attachment. And you had talked to, and I mentioned some guy I knew worked there. And they came later in the office and who are you? I told them my name. What are you doing here? And we had talked about attachment. But what was my response? I know you told me that you don't have an opportunity right now, but I need this. That's why I came. So the guy just laughed and said, okay, we will find something for you. Now, Interestingly, in that place, I only lasted 2 days.
Wow, okay.
And now that is how I got my first job. So on my second day or third day at the attachment, I received a call. Oh, so you had applied for this position, and I wasn't even sure I had applied for a position. I only know I was applying for attachments. But I think the person on the other end confused the applications. And they called me for a job interview. And I showed up. And I passed the interview. And I got the job. Yes, so that was my first job. It wasn't a big deal. It was for GIS database administration. We were at that time mapping or doing a project for mapping Kenya Power facilities. So you start mapping from the transformer, then you follow that line up to the customer. Yes, picking all the poles and the fuses, everything you find on that line. But now I was on there.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pipeline Podcast. And today we are with Steve Mwai, Geospatial engineer. Right before, and whether to call it a break, we were just talking about Kenya Power. I think one of the engineers had us talking about them, and they switched off the lights on us. So we apologize. I think, Mwai, what you are saying is Kenya Power are very good people.
Very nice company.
That's what you're just about to say, isn't it?
Yes. Please.
Ulifanya kazi na wao. It went well. The engineer at Kenya Power, we are sorry.
If you're listening,
we'll ensure for the next part of the interview we will not mention Kenya Power. All right. So moving on to geospatial engineering, rather. Are there any trends that you see lately in that field?
Trends. Okay. Let's go back to the Kenya Power thing. But Kenya Power is a good company. I think there's a very important lesson in my first job because I was on that job for only like 3 months and I resigned. And I resigned because I wanted a 100% salary increase.
Okay.
After only 3 months.
On your first job?
Not even graduated.
Would you care to tell us ulikuwa unalipwa ngapi? Tuanze hapo.
Oh my God. I wouldn't mention the amount, but it was just kidogo, but enough for somebody who's not graduated. But what happened is, you come out of college with all these expectations and all that. I was a hustler in college, so I had gotten some taste of money. And so I didn't understand the, respecting the journey, the growth, the process. Yes. And so I started, and because I thought I was doing maybe some good work at the company, I thought maybe I'd served a raise. And so I went and negotiated, and they were not open to that. They were open to just some small change, which I was not okay with, and I resigned. And my friend, that was one of the worst mistakes of my life. So I think to the young professionals out there, just be patient. Understand that there is a process that must be followed before you start earning what you see other people are earning there. I mean, you just be patient. Also understand organizations are different. You could be in one organization earning something, but maybe tomorrow you'll be in another one earning something better. Yes. So don't resign like me.
And it's very interesting because just also alluding to what you mentioned earlier about how you chose the course.
Yes.
Or rather one of the key factors you considered was iko na pesa.
Yes.
Most often when people who are in campus or rather young people or young professionals, the basis of which they make their decisions professionally is not, and I'm trying to avoid saying is wrong, because at that point, what you want to do is make yourself valuable.
Yes.
Give yourself value and the money will follow.
Exactly.
Most often you find someone wants, they're in a quote unquote, a job that me and is a very good job.
Yes.
With a very nice company. They're getting proper, very good experience, but then they're being paid meagerly. They're like, boss, no, nataka hii pesa.
Exactly. Because I think
my classmate, my deskmate or campus is earning
is
double.
earning double. So I need a double. I think I'm even doing better than, better work than they're doing.
Yes.
And I think what the young professionals sometimes don't understand is, the metric of success is not just monetary. There is exposure, there is experience, there is network. You know, you can be in a small company, but it exposing you to a lot of things.
True.
So that in your next job now, or even if you decide to go solo and do your own thing, you have a lot of value that now will bring money.
Yes.
So you may not be earning much at that time, but you're getting something more valuable than the money that maybe you see a friend that earning. Yes.
You know, one of the most interesting things that I've seen when we are conducting interviews for our department is someone says they want to be paid X amount, and then you ask them why, and one of the reasons they give is, my previous place was being paid this. If they're asking for 100K, they'll tell you, you know what, my previous place I'm going to live for 80.
So
I think now I deserve 100.
But
in my head, I'm thinking, boss, you know, if you're able to give us value, you know, kunile utatuambia you're bringing A, B, C, D to the table. Mpaka hata we'll even see even the 100 you probably ask for. We'll probably even give you more. So just getting to appreciate value. Gain value. Your first few years after graduating, try to get value, get experience, so that when you go to your next job, I usually say the first job is for getting experience. It should not be about money.
It shouldn't be about money. Even if it was for free. But it is giving you the right exposure.
Exactly.
The right growth. Just take it.
Your second, third job, huko unaweza sasa kusema.
Maringo inaweza ingia sasa.
You put your cards on the table.
Now this is the value that I'm bringing. So how much are you willing to pay for this value?
Exactly. Wow. Interesting.
So trends.
Yes, you are responding to trends. What trends? Anything new in the field that is exciting you?
So geospatial engineering is a very exciting industry because it is one of those fields that readily appreciates, welcomes, and incorporates trends in the industry. Because in geospatial, we are always using sophisticated equipment to do precise and accurate measurements, you know, new technologies of analyzing data. And so there's always something new that is coming up. For instance, at the moment, one of the newer technologies of RTK GNSS, which is an equipment for a methodology of picking equipment. A few years ago, people were using total stations and that was it. Now everybody is using the RTK. But even that RTK itself is evolving. Now you get an RTK that you can even tilt like this. You know, if you think you have seen the rovers in the field, so it doesn't have to be upright. You can still tilt.
Please ensure this is just a note to my director. Put a photo of
RTK. So RTK with the rover.
So that everyone is catching up with the conversation.
So you find now you can even tilt it. It has that tilt function. Another one has a laser so that if you stand here and you want to take a corner there, you just point the laser there and then it will get the position. Yes, we are talking of robotic total stations such that now traditionally survey has been a two-man job. So we have somebody standing here and another one on the other side.
That car, is it a ruler or what is that?
Now that is the level machine with the staff, with the measuring staff. But now there are systems that are coming so that now it becomes a one-man job.
Oh, nice.
So if it's a total station there and you have the reflector here, the total station is following you. It can sense where you are and it's following you. So when you set it, you don't have to, so you need somebody there. If it's what you're saying, the level machine, we have the digital level machines that are scanning the stuff. They are barcoded, and now they are robotic. They can follow the stuff where it is and pick measurements at maybe a press of a button. So there is that aspect of the equipment, or what we call the hardware. Then there is also software. There's so many advancements in programming, in GIS programming, in remote sensing. We have advancements in drone technology, for instance. A few years ago, if you wanted to map a large area, would have people on planes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and a camera system mounted on the bottom of the plane. And so it was a very expensive affair, very tedious affair.
I can imagine.
You can imagine, because you need a pilot, you need the camera system, you need the plane itself. But now we have drones. So even simple, you don't just need drone piloting license, and you can map a whole area with it. And now with that, it's inexpensive and it's easy to operate. We have things like 3D scanning, 3D LiDAR scanning. And now you can scan a whole facility or a feature, maybe a tank, a storage tank, a bridge, and then now you can get precise measurements from the 3D model that you get from that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. So wow. Just when you are talking about previously, what we've seen is two people. When you're doing a survey, there's a person.
Two-man job. Yes.
Let me use layman's language. Kuna huyu mwenye ako hapa na camera. Not a camera, but
yeah. He's a cameraman.
Na kule mtu wa rula pale ile side nyingine.
Yes.
But now you're saying ile mtu wa rula is quote unquote redundant now.
Yes.
You only have the cameraman.
Exactly.
And that camera is able to follow you.
Yes.
How do you stop people from when you're on the other side and you've left this camera here following you?
Yes.
And we know Kenyans. Mtu akibeba hii camera. You know sometimes you're doing a very large field.
I know.
You're 200 meters away. Na kuna hii equipment. Kenyans are very interesting. Someone doesn't know what that equipment is.
No, they don't know the cost of it. Yes.
They don't know how much, they don't know anything about it, but
Yes.
they're just like, wait, this thing is idle. Mwenyewe haonekani around.
It can fetch me something, whatever it is.
I'm the new owner. Officially appoint myself as the new owner. I don't know. Are those some of the challenges that you're facing?
There's some of the challenges, of course.
How did you mitigate them?
Yeah. So even if it becomes a two-man job, it means that now you do not necessarily need skilled labor to work with. You see?
Yeah,
you don't need two surveyors on the field. Because now I can leave that person. We just need somebody maybe to guard the one or the equipment. No, I can work with the other one. You see? Yes. So of course the challenges of maybe equipment being stolen, they are there, but then people also fear surveying equipment because they're asking themselves, if this thing knows the positions, it will also know where I am.
It will coordinate their house.
Exactly. If they're using it to make positions, exactly. Yes. So people are skeptic about trying to steal the surveying equipment, which is a good thing for us. Yes.
Oh, wow, interesting. So what are there any other challenges that you face being a geospatial engineer?
Well, of course, the challenges are many. Of course, when you're dealing with land, first, land is a very sensitive issue. Yes. So exactly. Yes. So you're dealing with disputes. You're dealing with boundary disputes. Maybe we went to the ground to show somebody the boundaries, and the neighbor thinks now you have come to steal. There's always this nation that surveyors steal land. But land is defined by boundaries and there are maps. And the only thing that can happen in surveying is an error. Maybe from the surveyor. Or maybe from the record that was done. But we don't create land. We do not. We cannot take it away. It has already been defined. But because land is a very sensitive issue and is a very sentimental issue, there will always be those cases of disputes, whether of ownership, whether of boundaries. So that, of course, that is one of the biggest challenges that we face as surveyors.
Wow. So if I hear you correct, what you're saying is you're not creating the boundaries.
No.
What is happening is there's an existing map.
Yes.
What you're doing is now determining
where those
boundaries
are. Yes.
So even when you make an error and shift it, the map at registry is not changing.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
So it can always be corrected.
So when this aggrieved person, when amekuliwa shamba, when they complain, when they go to the map, they'll find that map is actually...
Yes, they will always find reprieve in that.
Okay.
The only time we are creating boundaries is maybe when we are doing subdivision. But now, by that time, because it's new boundaries, there's no dispute. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So watu wasiogope.
Watu wasiogope. Surveyors
msipigwe na mawe.
there is a post I saw, and it's not even a meme, it was a real post somewhere. I think it wasn't in Kenya. You see those things of trespassers will be prosecuted. So that was written, trespassers and surveyors.
Will be shot.
Yes, I know, because what happens is the surveyor is one of the persons who has the authority to enter your land, and you won't call it trespass.
Oh, really?
Yes, because as long as I am registered as a surveyor, and I'm coming to survey parcel X, for the sake of me determining the boundaries of X, I can go into the neighboring boundaries, yes, to pick measurements. And you won't call me a trespasser. Of course, I will seek consent from you. I'll make sure that you're aware. I won't just walk in, but then if I walked in and you found me, you wouldn't.
If you are not there to give consent, you can still walk in.
I can still walk in.
It would be considered trespassing.
It would be considered as trespass. Yes.
But of course, you need to have your identification documents and
and duly registered.
Yes,
so that you. Yes, so you must be, by the Constitution, legally you must be registered as a surveyor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So umesema surveyors, that's something interesting I didn't know. That surveyors are allowed to legally trespass.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So one of the biggest challenges I have seen or have faced in my career is historical land injustices. And this is an issue that is very critical in Kenya. So on this particular one, we were doing an engineering survey project for KETRACO, Kenya Electricity Transmission Company. And we were surveying...
Not Kenya Power.
Not Kenya Power.
Is it Uzimia?
Wasizime. Lakini azima ya yote.
Watazima.
Yote.
A monkey was playing on the power line.
Yes.
Ikazima the whole country.
Monkey business people. Wasizime tafadhali. So we were doing a well live survey from Rumuruti to Mararal. So one of the aspects of well live surveying is also identifying the people that are affected by the project, so that you can conduct a resettlement action plan, because you have to pay these people. You have to compensate them for the land that you're taking.
Yes.
And so as the surveyor, you also go and do searches to see who are the legal owners, who are the registered owners of these parcels that you're going to take. But on the ground, you also take details of the owners on the ground, because you also have unofficial subdivisions. Maybe a father has given land to their sons, and now it is only one of the sons that is being affected, so you cannot be paying the whole family. So in as much as it's not officially done, but on the ground, there is that informal subdivision. So you're always picking data on the owners on the ground. So no, this is what happened. So when we picked data on the ground, and when we went to the registry to do the searches, and we tried to compare the two records, we had very different things.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you find that on the ground, the person who is registered is so and so Kamau.
Okay.
Yes. And on the ground, the person that is there is Ole somebody, some Samburu guy.
Wow.
So we have people living on the land, and they claim that it is their ancestral land. Yes. They have been there for ages, as they say, but on the registry it says otherwise. So how do you deal with such a case? Because now we have been told to do a resettlement action plan, so we have to advise the client, this is the land we are taking from so and so, with your formula, pay them this much. But now we have two different cases.
Because if you pay
Ole somebody, then Kamau will go to court.
Legally,
Exactly, he will go to court and say that you're taking my land and you're not compensating me. But also, if you pay Kamau,
this guy will not allow you to work.
You will not do that project. And so this is a case that we had to take back to the client for them to try and help us make a decision. And I think it also went up to the National Land Commission. Because now we are talking of thousands of affected persons.
Acres, and,
Yes.
and acres of land.
Yes. And so this is not just a matter that you could have solved in the office. This went, I think, up to the National Land Commission. And for the sake of politics, I won't mention the solution that was given.
We've actually had stories of
Yes.
so many stories. Whenever a project is coming up, there are some politics. Kuna watu hucheza mahali.
Yes. So for the sake, of course, of politics, I won't mention what the solution, but there was a solution that was approached at, a win-win solution, I believe. But it was very challenging. And that project, that was a challenging aspect in terms of the implementation. But I can tell you it was also challenging in physical aspects, like Rumuru to Mararan is bush, is forest.
Yes.
And so imagine you're doing a survey, and you know, whale leaves, those Ketrako whale leaves, they don't follow the road. They just pass through
Through a forest.
through the forest, yes. Yes, and so you're going there, there are wild animals.
Yeah.
There are elephants, there are buffaloes. Wow. We could see all kind of wild animals. Sometimes you have to leave somebody at the base and you're very worried about their security.
Yeah.
We had a guy who used to climb a tree and hope that a cheetah or a leopard doesn't come because
they also climb trees.
Exactly, yes. It is also an area that has bandits. So there's a day those teenagers with their G3s came and they asked, what are you, who are you, what you're doing there?
You have to respond.
You have to respond, you know.
If you don't, that could be your last day.
Yes. So I think that was one of
the
that was one of the most challenging projects I dealt with. But we managed.
Yes. I think you need to apply to be a licensed gun holder. I'm just trying to imagine if I'd put myself in such a risk. And I think I also understand why you ask for double pay rise. These are now some of the reasons you bring to the negotiating
yes,
table.
You tell them, no, my life was at
risk.
Yes.
The amount you're paying me is not worth the risk I'm taking.
I know, yeah.
Oh, interesting. And land continues to be a very emotive issue.
It is.
In the country.
And I don't even see if there will be an end to it because it is not really diminishing because it's not reducing in size, but as the population grows, the demand for space and for landed resources increases. And so we're always competing. Yes.
And then now you guys find yourself stuck in the middle of it.
Middle, yes.
You're the quote-unquote first responders.
Yes, and we are trying to help, but as we're trying to help, somebody else thinks that we want to cut them short. Unfortunately. So
in Mwai, as we proceed, where do you see geospatial engineering in the next 5 to 10 years, and especially looking at artificial intelligence and machine learning and various other aspects? How do you see that affecting geospatial engineering in the next 5 to 10 years? Or is there any other advancement that you see that are going to affect the industry?
So in my view, in the next 5 to 10 years, and like I had mentioned before, geospatial engineering is an industry that evolves very fast. Once today you have this equipment, in the next 5 years, it is considered obsolete or an old technology. But top of my mind, some of the things I think will happen in the next 5 years. One, I see the complete takeover of drones, so that we don't have any plane doing mapping anymore, because now every industry, every surveyor will now adopt drone mapping. Some of the topographical surveys that we take days or weeks, months to do will be done in a matter of hours. And even satellite technology for mapping might also be, a huge chunk of it will be taken by drone technology. Because you see with satellites, a satellite has to go around maybe the Earth, or it has to pick information around a certain period. But a drone, you pick where you want, when you want.
Whenever you want.
Yes. So even governments, whether local governments, national governments, can use drones to pick data, and then you have total control over what data you want to pick. As opposed to satellite systems, not many countries have satellite systems, and so you will not be relying on external providers for this data. So I see in the next 5 years, drone technology for mapping will take over the industry. Also, maybe the issue of one-man surveys will be a reality by then. Robotic total stations, robotic RTKs, and level machines. That will be a reality by then. It's already happening, but I think by then it will happen. There's also the issue of land information management systems. And now we are talking of the digitization of records and the digitalization of processes. You're already hearing of Adisasa. Now, if you want to do a search, you go online, you search, then you get it.
You don't need to go through brokers.
Yes, when you want to transfer land, you won't need to go to, I don't know, Ruiru, Juja, I don't know where. The same way, if you want to transfer your car today, you just go to your computer.
The comfort of your
Exactly, yes. So that
internet connection is all you need.
Yes, so with the digitization of records and the digitalization of processes, we are looking at land information management systems that are totally digital in the next 5 years. And there are also things like the course system, that is the continuous referencing systems. These are now, you remember to put the RTK, we have the base and the rover.
Yes.
Now in advanced countries, people just have the rover. The government has placed bases, let me call them bases, that continuously transmit location data. And so you connect to them remotely. Yes, and so what happens is they also help to harmonize the data that is being collected, because the base is operating under the same system and under the same reference. Yes, so in the next 5 years, I know Survey of Kenya has put up several. Sometimes they are not functional. There are also some private entities that have put up cause systems. But in the next maybe 5 to 10 years, I see a situation where Survey of Kenya has implemented a national cause system, and now as a surveyor, you only need to connect to their network. Yes, 3D surveys, LiDAR scanning, it is a new technology in Kenya. In the next 5 years, we'll have many people using laser scanners to scan buildings, scan features, so that now we can realize the twin city aspect, and now also to interface very well with the architects and the engineers in 3D modeling and 3D design.
True.
Yes.
True. Yeah, it is interesting because I've noticed surveyors, kind of, you're part of the engineering teams that have been left behind as far as 3D modeling.
3D modeling is concerned. Yes.
Everyone is going the 3D modeling, mechanical, civil structural. Of course, architects have been there for a while now, but surveyors, you're saying,
hatutaki kuachwa nyuma. Yes, because what we do is 3D in some way, because we pick the X, Y, and Z aspects, but then it is not. It is sampled, because we cannot pick the whole. We have to sample points and then now start maybe drawing lines and polygons. But now with 3D LiDAR or laser scanning, you pick every point of a feature or a structure. And you can see now the 3D model. If it's you, the mechanical engineer, you can see the whole pipe as built.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. So, engineer, in terms of sustainability and environmental concerns, how does that intertwine with geospatial engineering? Is that something that affects your field? How do you interact with sustainability within your field?
Yeah, interesting question. So, remembering what I had said earlier, that the surveyor is the first person on site.
Yes.
And so the surveyor must consider all elements and aspects of sustainability in the survey they do and give to the other engineering disciplines. And so what we are saying is a surveyor must do a very comprehensive and inclusive survey so that they capture all elements of drainage, elements of the environment. If you're working in a flood zone, you need to capture it. If there is a river nearby, you need to capture it, so that we do not have people building on the riparian land because the surveyor did not pick that there is a river and they did not show that legally this is the distance that you need to keep from the river. Whether it is littoral land, that is land next to the ocean, what are the legal requirements for development near on an ocean or a lake, if it's a wetland, if it's a protected area. So the surveyor has a mandate and a responsibility to capture all these things and to advise design or construction based on the preservation of the environment and ESG, whether SG or SDG goals, so that the survey includes aspects of ESG and SDG goals.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, what I hear you saying is that you kind of form the first, like we previously said,
Yes.
the first point of reference, because you're the one who's supposed to capture
Yes.
what is on the ground.
Yes.
That now the other disciplines that come on board will make reference to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we also now understand the legal confines in which some of these things operate. You know, because an engineer will not automatically know that we are supposed to live 3 meters from this river.
Yeah.
Yes. So I will come and pick the river, but I also know from a legal standpoint, this is how much you need to live. You know, like a very interesting thing, when you talk of sustainability, the reason, the basis for living some distance from the road, so that the building line is like maybe 6 meters from the road. In some instances, it's usually dependent on the size of the adjacent road, is so that we can allow for future expansion.
Future expansion, yeah.
Exactly, yes. So the surveyor, when I pick the road, I also need to remind
Remind the
engineers that this is an 18-meter road. So your building line should start this number of meters from the boundary. Yes.
It is interesting when you say that, because I'm reminded of a while back when we had a politician who advised that we move a river.
Yes. No mentioning of names.
The building has already been, no need to mention names.
Yeah.
But you can give a clue that they were impeached. Due to incompetence. So they're recommending that we move a river instead of someone moving a building.
Yeah, that was a very interesting
so
suggestion.
That was that probably due to failure on the part of the surveyor? Because I know, of course, there's also instances where, as a professional, you advise a client.
Yes.
But then also
they still decide to do their things.
And you know, something interesting that I learned from one of my in-laws is that you can never go to someone's house and tell them how to do things.
Yeah.
So yours is to advise the client.
I advise you, but then at the end of the day, you make the decision. Yes, and we have seen. So in that case, I wouldn't know if it was the failure on the side of the surveyor, or it may be the implementation team, or maybe the owner. But well, something went wrong, so that we had a river that was obstructed by development, and that should not be the case.
Yeah.
And we have seen even in other areas, people building in flood areas, and then
during
the rain, yes, during the dry season, and then during the rain, nature reminds you that yes,
I'm the original
that was a
owner.
mistake. Yes, I'm the owner. You know, there is a mzee who usually says, a senior surveyor who usually says that you go and take the river's land without consent. But when it comes,
the river comes back then.
It doesn't come with consent. It will just come. Yeah, so it is the role of the surveyor, even from not just micro, but also from a macro level, like regional surveys, national surveys, so that we can know what are the flood zones, what are the wetlands, how do we zone these areas so that we do not have people being affected by things like floods. You know, how do we protect forests? You know, that is why we also do change detection, so that we can map a forest, we can map green matter through remote sensing, and later now we can tell you that over the past 5 years, this forest has been encroached by this much, or the green matter in this area has changed by this much, so that we can say now people have been cutting down trees, something needs to be done. Yes, so it's not just from like maybe the classical surveying, but they also GIS and remote sensing. With remote sensing, we can analyze data on vegetation, on animals. We can even tell how many elephants are in Mount Kenya.
Oh, really?
Yes, because in remote sensing, like if we have a satellite flying or a drone flying, it has different sensors, or what we call cameras. It's not just the visible light one or the RGB one. It has LiDAR, for instance. It has microwave sensors. It has infrared sensors. And all of those will take different aspects. Yes, different aspects because of the electromagnetic spectrum which they are able to sense. So you're able to sense, you can even tell that a certain species of an animal or a certain species of a plant has been either increasing or decreasing over time, and that also helps with environmental awareness and management.
Yes. So that's how you determine endangered species of animals,
or trees, or yes.
Interesting. So that also is under.
That also is geospatial engineering. Yes.
Well, so you need to Younger with only 200 of these species.
Yes. We help with that. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's interesting to know. And what would you say are some of the challenges that are facing general geospatial engineering as a field? I know previously you told us about some of the challenges that you faced as an engineer, especially on the field. But now, generally, as geospatial engineering, are there any common challenges that the field is facing?
Yeah. So I think one of the challenges I can point out to, and is very conspicuous, especially in our country and in our region, Africa, is that as the industry is revolutionizing in terms of technology, but then we are also regulated by governments. Now, these governments sometimes are very slow to adopt to changing technology. And so you find because of that, we also kind of have to lag behind. If we are talking of this digitalization of records, there are people who the government is very slow to change or is resistant. Sometimes maybe there are people who don't want us to digitize because they bank on the ineffectiveness of the systems for them to survive, And so you find us as professionals, we want to advance, but the government is pulling us behind.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Something that someone shared with me previously. They were a photographer,
Yes.
And I think you've touched on it, the matter of drones. That when drones were just coming into Africa or into Kenya, the government, because of previous regulation, anything flying, you need a pilot's license.
Yes, you need.
So a photographer to fly a drone, they need a pilot's license.
Yes.
So government just sitting down and coming up with guidelines and regulations to control flying of drones.
Yes.
Everyone else out there is using drones, but you can't use them in Kenya.
Can't use them in Kenya
because you'll be arrested.
Yes.
And you don't have a pilot's license. So I can imagine how
it is. So it's a matter of the government understanding the magnitude of or the need for drones, whether for mapping or even for photography, and so that even the policies that are created, they are accommodative of the real situation. The real situation is we cannot make the policies very stringent, so that even somebody just wanting to do a social media post or a wedding shoot needs a lot of licensing and is paying a lot of money, that it no longer makes sense. But then also we as the users must understand why the government is putting restrictions on maybe drone usage, because a drone flies anywhere. It also becomes a security concern. And that is why the government first needs to know who is importing drones. It also needs to know who is operating drones. And it also needs to know who is piloting drones. And they want to understand that every time if they saw a drone flying somewhere, they can point it to either a pilot or an operator or an owner. But now, in terms of the fees, that is where now I think we need to have discussions.
So because they have to cover a very wide base,
it
takes a bit of time for that regulation to be developed.
Yes.
And at the same time, the fees, of course.
The fees, sometimes they don't feel like they are fair. So maybe that's somewhere the government needs to check. But and they also do that because there's something we call geofencing with drones. And that is restricting drones not to fly in certain areas. So a drone needs to have that feature. In a country like Kenya, where now drone flying is regulated, they want to make sure that as the drone comes in, it's inspected so that they know that it has the geofencing feature so that you do not fly it to the
restricted airspace. So
recently we went with some guy here to a place in Muthaiga and we tried flying a drone. It couldn't even take off. Exactly, yes. So those things are done because of security, privacy, and all that. They are necessary, but now the government needs to be careful how they implement it so that they do not make it very hard or impossible for anybody to operate a drone in Kenya. Yes.
Okay. It's interesting because you're not only giving it, well, it's a challenge for the surveyor,
yes,
but at the same time we're trying to appreciate why the government is taking too long and why it has to regulate.
Yes,
because otherwise it might be misused.
Yes.
Privacy for citizens, security, like you mentioned, all that needs to be.
Imagine you're flying a drone into a barrack.
Yeah. That's a barrack, state house.
Or state house. So we also have to be careful, and that is why the need for regulation. But now, as long as the government is doing it with the appreciation of how much this technology has come in and what is the need for this technology.
And so as we start to wind up on our interview today, and I must say it's been a very interesting one so far, how do you see your role contributing to societal advancement and solving global issues?
Yeah, so there is a saying that geospatial engineers have, and we say everything that happens happens at a location. And we are the location experts. Yeah.
Clearly, yeah.
Yes. So one of the best ways to analyze anything, to plan anything, is to tie it to a location. Yeah. Whether we are talking of governance, that's why we have boundaries and we say this is Kenya, this is this county. When you're planning for resources, when you're planning for development, you're always tying it to locations. And so the management of resources and development and governance is always backed up by the geospatial engineer, so that we have equal distribution, we have logical distribution of resources, whether we are talking of regional planning, regional development, or regional cooperation, yes, so that countries or regions can share resources and can develop together. We have the geospatial engineer coming there to help with master planning, regional master planning, regional analysis of existing resources, whether you're talking of population, whether you're talking of the environment, health, and all those things, they must be tied to a location. That is the only way to really appreciate different aspects of the growth in a society. Yes, so the role of the surveyor is to know what is where and what needs to go where. Yes, I will put it simply that way.
Yeah, interesting. And are there things that you enjoy as a surveyor? By that I mean, what do you enjoy most about your work? And also, if you could just tying to that as well, could you mind sharing with us moments in your career that you found particularly rewarding?
Yeah, what I enjoy most for me is the GIS aspect of geospatial engineering. And the reason why I enjoy GIS so much is because it offers a very versatile scope of problems. Okay. With all respect to these other industries or branches of surveying. For instance, if you're a surveyor, you start doing subdivisions. It's kind of the same process over and over again. Yes, you find challenges in the field, but the process is the same. With engineering survey, almost the same, But with GIS, now you get to deal with a very wide scope of problems that you need to solve. Today you are doing analysis on markets. Tomorrow you are doing analysis on health. The next day you're doing analysis on environment. The next day you're doing on transport or infrastructure. And because of that, I feel that GIS exposes me to more knowledge than these
more
other.
versatile.
Yes, more versatile. Because unlike these other aspects that are tied to one industry, like land surveying is tied to the landed industry. Engineering is to the engineering construction. But GIS is for anything.
It's broad-based.
Yes, it is just, like I said, it's the IT of surveying. So we can be analyzing anything.
Yeah.
Today we could be analyzing schools and the distribution of schools. Tomorrow we are doing population. The next day we are doing health. The time we are doing governance. And so because of that, I feel it exposes me to different knowledges, different cultures, different places. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I've just remembered when you were interviewing one of our legal minds, and one of the questions we asked her was why they call themselves learned friends. And she gave that exact response. Basically, that as a lawyer, when you're representing an engineer, you need to do research on engineering.
Exactly.
When you're representing a doctor, that's why now they call themselves learned.
So I think you need to talk to them. Tell them they are not the only ones who are not learned. If that is the explanation, that is the basis.
My point.
Yes,
exactly.
because even when you're doing something like engineering surveying,
yes,
when the mechanical engineer gives me their design or their drawing, I have to understand it from the point of the mechanical engineering, because I need to know what is this they are doing. Why is this thing here? So even when I'm going to the ground to place it, I must understand what it is about.
Exactly.
Yes, so
exactly. So you need to do some form of research to it. You're not tied to one discipline as such.
No.
One day, like for mechanical, one day you could be doing design for a hospital.
Yes.
The next day you're doing design for a school.
Yes.
Another time
it's a
you're
gas
doing for
plant.
apartments, a gas plant.
Yes.
And all these things have different requirements.
Yes.
So all we are saying, Madam, they call
Wakili.
themselves Esquire.
Wakili, a quick one. We have more landed people.
We are all landed friends. And you're to tell us also about a moment in your career that you found particularly rewarding.
Yeah.
There
are many, but I think I can zero down on one. That was my first consultancy project.
Okay.
So I was just coming from a small job, I would say. I think it was my second job.
The first,
the second one.
The one that you resigned.
Yes, after I resigned, now the second one. I was coming from that, and I was feeling the need to grow. I was feeling like I have accumulated a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills, but the space I was in was not allowing me to implement what I had gathered. And then I got this one consultancy job, and it was big.
Okay.
Because it was an IGAD project. So IGAD covers the countries of Eastern Africa apart from Tanzania. So Eritrea, Djibouti, Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Uganda, Somalia. Yes. And so we were dealing with experts from all those countries, governments from all those countries, because what we were doing is we were doing a regional master plan for the IGAD region for up to 2050. So we are planning for roads, we are planning for power, we are planning for water, we are planning for internet.
Wow.
So it was a massive thing, and it came to me when I was from a very humble job, and then already I have this very big opportunity. And even in terms of pay, interestingly, when I was told to quote, the person who had introduced me there, I quoted, and they looked at my quote and they laughed.
I know the thing.
And they told me,
you're not serious.
with this one, we can't take this there. And so I was like, so how much do you think? And they told me to do it times 4.
Wow. You know something interesting? Sometimes when they tell you the first point when you present, they tell you this, we can't take you.
You are like,
in your mind, you're like, it's too high.
Yes.
Maybe I need to slash it by 2. I thought of doing half, but this project is big. So I decided to give that figure. And then now you're being told both.
This is a joke. Imagine. And so it was also very fulfilling, even in terms of, it was rewarding, like you asked. It was very rewarding to know that in as much as I was excited just to show and use my skills, but then also the reward, the monetary reward was very good for me that time.
True.
True. And I'm telling you, even after I did 4 times of what I had quoted, by the end of the project, somebody told me to revise this to make it now ×2 of that ×4.
So 8 times.
8 times.
Your original double quote. You know, there was
Yes.
you had
Yes.
quoted double because of this project.
Because the big project.
Ukaambiwa do by 4.
2 ×4.
Now
And
you're
then at the
doing
end of
by...
the day, yes.
Wow.
Yes, and so it was very rewarding for me, and I cannot even forget the exposure. Now, leaving the monetary part of it, the exposure that it gave me, because it was multidisciplinary and it was also multinational.
Yeah, cross border. You interact with different people.
Different government
different
stakeholders.
scenarios.
Yes.
And something interesting I've come to that. So 2 things basically that I'm picking from there. Number 1, again, taking us back to the conversation of appreciating humble beginnings, where you don't chase the pay, you chase the experience. Because I feel like if you didn't have that experience, you'd not be able to get this job.
I wouldn't have gotten it. Yes.
If what you are chasing was pay, if you're given that double pay, but you didn't have the experience,
I wouldn't deliver.
You'd still be there. You'd be earning a lot, but you don't have the necessary experience to do an eager job.
Yes.
True. Yes. And secondly, just being able to work, like you've mentioned, multidisciplinary across borders.
Yes.
I stand. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like how you do survey in a place like South Sudan is probably not the same way. Not even just survey, but generally geospatial engineering is probably not the same way you do it in Kenya. The land topographies are different.
Yes.
How you do it in Mount Kenya, like Nyeri, for example, is not the way you do it in Kisumu, for example.
Of course.
So getting exposed to those different countries, there's so much diversity and the amount of experience that you get there. If you present your CV and you're like, boss, I've done work here, your guys are like, what?
Exactly. Yeah, it is a very fulfilling thing to get exposed to all that diversity in terms of disciplines and also in terms of the different areas. Like you're saying, it's very different, even because how land is administered in certain areas is different how it's administered. Like, for instance, the land tenure system in Kenya is very much developed as compared to maybe the land tenure system in Somalia or in South Sudan. And so you find in Kenya the systems kind of work, but you go to another area, now you have to take a different angle. Maybe you mostly
land is owned by government.
Yes, you're dealing now with the government and not individuals and all that. And also, or something that came out conspicuously during that time is international boundary conflicts.
Oh, really?
Yes, because like that was a rookie mistake I did. The first map I drew, and then it was presented to the stakeholders, and then I am claiming a part of we Kenya think is Kenya, but South Sudan
because you're representing Kenya.
Because I'm from Kenya. And so of course, I had to be told that now when you're dealing with cross-border mapping, there's a way you represent areas that have disputes, and then you have disclaimers here saying that this map is not authority on boundaries and all that. So that now, because actually the first meeting, the map became an issue of discussion.
Key point of discussion.
Yes.
Yet it was probably not the agenda.
Because the stakeholders, they represent their governments, they are looking at me like I am IGAD.
Yes.
So does IGAD has a position on the border on this area? Because you've done it like this. And so we had to correct very fast and tell them, no, this is just for visualization. But now in subsequent mapping, we had to really show those. And there are several in the region. We had to be very careful how we deal with them.
True. And it's very interesting, especially when you're dealing with cross-border. Most of us forget that you're not there just as an engineer.
No.
You're also there as a Kenyan. You're representing Kenya.
Yes.
And when you're interacting with the other country,
they interact against them.
Yes.
They have their own standpoint.
So you're just there, just presenting a simple map.
Yes.
But to them both, you are eating into our territory.
Exactly. You have to be reminded. Yes.
Wow. Okay, that was a very interesting one.
It was.
Yeah. So as we begin to, or rather as we continue to wind down, as we come into the tail end of this episode of the podcast, what's in the pipeline for, number one, you as in the individual Mwai, and then also you mentioned at the beginning that you lead a department, the GIS department at Synergetic.
Yes.
What plans do you have for that department in the next? What should we expect, or what should we look forward to?
So for myself as a professional, I have two things in my to-do list in the next maybe couple of years or so. First is to complete my master's. Currently I'm pursuing an MSc in GIS and remote sensing. And so I'm done with classwork, stuck where everybody else gets stuck at the project, but I'm working on it. And so that's something I'm looking at completing. And then the ultimate goal of a surveyor is to become a licensed surveyor. So we only have about just over 200, maybe 250 licensed surveyors in the country.
Wow.
And so it's not a mean feat for anybody to achieve that. And so I have made steps toward that by becoming what we call a full member of the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya. And so now what is remaining is just the licensing by the Land Surveyors Board of Kenya, or LSP. So that is, in the next 2 years, that is what I am looking to achieve for myself.
So basically you want to become a licensed trespasser.
Yes, licensed trespasser.
Yes, go ahead.
And then for the GIS and survey department, I am looking at growth, both in terms of technology, because we have mentioned over again here that this geospatial industry is always changing, adapting new technologies. So I'm looking at our department being one of the first departments in the country to adopt new technologies, so that we also become a model for what is happening in the industry, Like I can proudly say at the moment, we do not have what we call a dumpy level in the department.
Wow.
All the level machines we have are digital level machines that scan using the barcode. And so those are the kind of achievements I'm looking for. So I want to have, I'm looking at a department that has things like drones, things like 3D LiDAR scanners, things like we are doing hydrographic surveying using our own equipment. That is what I'm looking at and hoping for the department. I'm also, of course, hopeful for the growth of the department in terms of human resources, so that the people we have, the surveyors we have in the department also upskill, they get this new, to understand or training in these new technologies, They also get licensing and certifications in different fields, Also we grow in numbers, so that we can also start offering or continue offering geospatial engineering services as a standalone.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think one of the lessons that I've learned over the number of interviews we've had with different line managers is, as a manager, one of the things that you want to always be on top of is keeping up with technology.
Yes.
Being competitive in the market. Never let technology ikupite.
You'll be another Kodak.
or Nokia. I was watching an interesting documentary recently. There's a time that Nokia, the market share that Nokia had was about 30 or something percent.
Global market share.
Global market share.
Yes.
And if you compare that to where they are at right now, so please ensure that you always, abreast the latest technology.
We have to keep ourselves on toes, especially in the geospatial engineering field. You blink, you lose.
You blink, you're left.
Yes. So you always have to. But I like the progress so far. We're making strides. Hopeful for the future.
All right. That is great to hear. And what hobbies or interests do you have outside of work?
So I love programming.
Okay.
And I know it is one of the things that really surprise people when they hear that you're a surveyor and you're coding. They're like, mashamba. Mashamba na code.
But if this question came at the beginning, because when you are beginning, all we knew was surveyor, shamba.
Exactly.
But I think given that you now explained a bit more about it, I think now we can see the connection.
Yes. So GIS in particular, and also remote sensing, involve a lot of programming because you're always dealing with data, and we have to analyze it. So the way we analyze it is not just by using certain software, by also creating scripts or models using code that analyze this data, because we're always dealing with large data sets. And so you cannot be manipulating this data one by one.
Yeah.
So what we do is we use code that now help us now deal with the large data sets. We're also creating software. Interestingly, by the way, when I came to Synergetic, I came to do a mobile app.
Okay. Wait,
Yes.
so you came to an app, a bootstrap story, and then they realized, wait, you can also do
software. Yes.
Yeah, but tell us just tell us a bit about that. How what happened?
My first task at Synergetic was to develop a mobile application for collecting data in the field. And so what happened is, at first they were looking at IT people, software programmers. But now, because of the location aspect, that time we were doing, we wanted to analyze the market for LPG. It was when Gas Connect was being birthed. Yeah. And so we needed to understand what are the dynamics of LPG consumption in the country. Yeah. And so there's the attribute data that was being picked, brand preferences, costing, the different brands that are there, alternative means of energies and all that. But then there's the location aspect. Like we said, one of the best ways to analyze something is to tie it to a location. And that is when you can know, if we set up shop in this area, we'll be in for business. Yeah. Now, most of the software programmers that were approached, they didn't understand that location aspect of it. And so somebody advised them, there is people in the geospatial engineering industry, who now understand analyzing data with the location aspect of it tied to it, And so I received a call. And somebody told me that, hey, so there's this app we need to do, and they started explaining, and I was like, worry no more. I got you. Yes. Yes. And so that was my first task here. And of course, now the process of doing that, the mobile application and collecting data in the field, the analysis. And now we started talking about me taking a permanent role at Synergetic. And that is when I revealed to them, by the way, I am a surveyor. Yes, I'm a geospatial engineer. Yes. And now, of course, this discussion of, so what are you doing in what they thought is IT, but it's not actually IT, it's GIS. Yes.
Interesting. It actually reminded me of one of our past interviews. Please make time and watch it with Simon. He's a project manager.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things that we discovered during that interview, rather the advice he gave was the best project managers are those who didn't necessarily do project management in campus. They did mechanical engineering. Then they became a project manager for mechanical projects.
Oh, yeah.
So when you mentioned you're programming something for GIS, I think it just hit me that sometimes some of these career paths, you don't necessarily need to do that. You don't, for example, programming.
Yes.
If you want to specialize and become better at it, is
first
do
certain area.
Yes.
And then now you start
become a programmer
in that area, for that area. Yes, true, yes.
There's a niche market that you can then tap into. If you want to program a software for hospital, it really helps.
If you
have a background
in hospital management or you're a doctor, you know the processes that are involved there. Yes, yes, true.
Exactly. So there's this question, engineer, that I asked one of our previous guests, and of course he gave all the wrong answers. but I like the fact that I know you're a very intelligent man, and I know you're going to give the correct answer.
Why do I feel like I'm twisted to give a certain?
You're not being twisted. I'm just trying to lube you up. So if given two options, either your age is fast-tracked to a 70-year-old.
Okay.
And you're given $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Yes. But then you become a 70-year-old now. Or you rolled back to a 10-year-old with the same information that you have right now.
Yeah.
Which option did you go for? And please keep in mind that there's a wrong answer.
This is not a case of that all answers are correct.
No. Not in this podcast. There are wrong answers also, and I can confirm that the previous guest gave the wrong answer. Names shall not be mentioned, but interestingly, ni mtu wa Kenya Power.
Asisikie ama ni alizima ile wakati.
Wewe inaweza kuwa ni alizima. But yes, what option did you go for in that case?
70-year-old
with $1 billion,
$1 billion, yes. Or a 10-year-old with the information that I have
right
now. Wow, interesting. And I think viewers will remember that somebody asked me if I love money.
But there's a decision you made.
And I made a decision
because of money.
Because of money.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's what I know now. I think it's a very interesting question because it touches on the aspect of what defines success. Yeah. And of course, money, even the good book says that money answers all things. Yeah. But there is also another aspect of looking at life where success is also other things like family and friends, moments, you know, good health, long life, all those things make up what we would term as success. Yeah. So money is not the only aspect, but it's a very important aspect.
Very
and
important.
In all you are getting, please get money. But to answer you now, I think I would go for the 10-year-old.
These guests that we are getting. No.
I would go for the 10-year-old.
Let me give you time to explain yourself.
Yes.
Maybe you might have, you may tell us something new, which I highly doubt. Okay. But please explain yourself.
So, with the information I know now, first, I know how to make money, and I'm not beating my chest and saying that if I am 10 with the information I have now, by the time I'm 70, I'll have made $1 billion. But what I'm saying is, I'll have made something that will make me comfortable or feel achieved or fulfilled. Not $1 billion, maybe $1 million, but I will still feel fulfilled. And on top of it, I'll have had more life to live. Yeah, I'll have a smoother life because now I know the things I did wrong. I've learned from those mistakes. I know how to enjoy my life even better. You know, I know how to relate with people because I have lived this thing already. I know how to live healthier, whether we are talking physically or socially. So I would go for the 10-year-old because for me, $1 billion is a lot of money. I would want it now, but it is not the only measure of success. I would probably live a better life with $1 million instead, or even 10 million Kenya shillings instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So basically what you're saying is, excuse me, that there's more to measure fulfillment than money.
Than just
and
money.
As a 10-year-old, you have your whole life ahead of you.
Yes.
You'll probably be able to make the $1 billion or even $1 million, which is still sufficient.
Yes.
You don't have to. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
I hope now I can sway you.
It doesn't make sense to me that everyone is entitled to their opinion, no matter how wrong they could be. Because as a 10-year-old, on your 11th birthday, COVID would come. Ukufe.
It's okay.
Na umeenda.
I have the chance.
At the same time, just because you're 70 does not mean that you have. I didn't say you have bad health.
Yeah.
You could be 70 and still live.
But I could also have the $50 billion and I'm 70 and I die at 71.
Yes.
So I think I would take the chance.
You die with money.
Yes.
You're going to leave people with money. You will be buried in a very lavish casket. And 11-year-old, you're still living under your parents' roof. You probably are not allowed to utilize that information until you're 18, when you can now walk, do things by yourself. Boss, I think it's not even about the love of money.
But don't you think you would also be very interested in seeing how you relive, how you experience things a second time? That would be very interesting.
You know how I'm looking at it where I am right now. I'm closer to the 10-year-old than to the 70-year-old. And what I mean by that is I'll not miss out. It's a very short period here. And I don't know, these 15, 20 years here.
Going to be much there.
Yeah, but as a 70-year-old, I'm looking at all the opportunities. You know, basically at that point, you don't have to work for money.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the amount of things that you can do with all that money. And it's not just looking at it from the perspective of you want to kula starehe and buy, you know, like ships, yachts, and all that. You're looking at it from the perspective that you can travel the world, you can help as much as you want, you can elevate poverty, you can help relatives. As in, I'm looking at the opportunities that come with having that amount of money. And keep in mind, there's no way they say that you're going to be stupid at 70. That will give you $1 billion, but you still probably have the same information you have right now. So you're kind of going to be wise about how to utilize that money. So, I think just seeing the number of opportunities.
I'm not downplaying. And I think I mentioned this. I'm not downplaying the significance of money, and especially that kind of an amount. $50 billion. There's so much you can do with it, right?
Yes.
But then, going back to what I was saying, I'm not looking at life as a product of just money. You know, there are other aspects of life that I would enjoy living with knowledge of how to navigate through them. If I was to go back and become a 10-year-old. Yes.
Okay. And you know also they say that life begins at 50. So as a 70-year-old, you only have missed 20 years.
Was it 50 or 40?
No.
The goal changed.
No, both. Goalpost.
The goalpost changed.
As you're approaching it, they keep pushing it.
And you're going to ask what now it becomes 50.
But thank you for bringing in that interesting perspective. I'm still in my pursuit to get someone who will agree with me that $1 billion is better for a 70-year-old with $1 billion is better than I'm actually reminded of one of my favorite musicians who says that a knife in the hand of someone who knows how to use it is more dangerous than a bazooka in the hand of someone who doesn't know how to operate it. So a 10-year-old with all this information compared to a 70-year-old with $1 billion, I don't know.
You'd rather go for this? Well, I mean...
You know, a 10-year-old, I'd said you have the information, but I don't know whether to also throw in the fact that your mind has not fully developed at that point. You could have the information, but as a 10-year-old, you want to go and play with your friends.
What happens is knowledge and information is what forms our understanding of things. So if you have all that knowledge in you, it means it forms your opinion, your perspectives, your viewpoints and all that. So you wouldn't have all that knowledge and you're a dunderhead.
Okay. All right. Sawa.
Right.
Asante sana for
Thank you so
coming
much.
to the podcast. Hope to have you again. It's been a very interesting one. You've given us a lot of perspective. Kutokonfirmia that nyinyi si watu wa kwenda kupiga steps mbili kwa shamba. Confirming that haikuangi kamera na ruler, you know. A lot of new things we've learned. So asante sana for coming, and hope when we extend the invite again you honor with your presence.
Thank you so much also for having me. It's been a very interesting and exciting moment. Next time when you call me, I'll come.
and we'll ensure that I don't know whether to say that we were sipping air. But please, I hope you recognize that now we are branding. Kidogo, you see the scenery is going to be changing even as we look to winding up this season. So that's it. Asanteni sana. This has been another episode of the Pipeline Podcast. See you on the next one.